Okay, great. So thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Amanda DeShazo. I'm the Executive Director for the Tacoma-Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium. Just a quick note, like I said, this is being recorded for future review. You can catch it on our website, on our YouTube channel as well, if you missed anything. So just briefly, the Tacoma-Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium is a nonprofit membership-based agency. We provide public education and advocacy for the expansion of affordable housing in Pierce County. We do this by educating the public on the need for affordable housing by hosting webinars, meetings, and collecting data to share with the public. We also advocate at the state and local levels for policies and funding that will support the creation of more affordable housing. Our consortium is made up of 60 members from affordable housing developers, financiers, construction companies, architects, consultants, as well as health department and Pierce Transit. So thank you, Pierce Transit. And individual advocates who are all dedicated to advancing affordable housing in Pierce County. If you would like to learn more about our organization or becoming a member, you can find us at affordablehousingconsortium.org or tpcahc.org. So today on our webinar, we'll be hearing from Pierce Transit. They were founded in 1979. Pierce Transit is a nationally recognized leader in the public transportation industry. They cover 292 square miles of Pierce County with roughly 70% of the county population. Last year, they provided 9.8 million rides to people in the service area, getting them to jobs, shopping, medical appointments, social events, and much more. They offer bus, vanpool, and paratransit shuttle services, as well as innovative tailored programs that connect people to transit. They also help local employers implement efficient and cost-effective transportation plans. So today, Pierce Transit will be sharing information on the ORCA for Multifamily program. You'll learn about the ORCA card and how it can help low-income tenants residing in your properties. We also encourage your participation in a discussion on how the ORCA card can benefit affordable housing in terms of potential cost savings for development of housing, as well as for landlords and tenants. So if at any time during the presentation you have a question, please feel free to post it in the chat. You should all have access to that. And then we'll set aside time for questions at the end. And Nathan, totally up to you. If you encourage discussion during your presentation, I'll leave that to you, but I will encourage people to use the chat because I'll monitor that. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Nathan Bavell. He is the Community Development Coordinator for Pierce Transit. And so Nathan, do you want to introduce yourself before you go ahead and get started?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. And I'll post my contact information in the chat box as well before we wrap up today. So as Amanda mentioned, Nathan Bavell, I'm one of the Community Development Coordinators at Pierce Transit. I've been here for about 1.5 years. My background on the civilian side, after I transitioned out of the military, has primarily been in economic and workforce development. With the state of Missouri, I was a project manager doing economic development, business retention expansion programs. And then I became the executive director for a small EDO outside of Kansas City, Missouri, where I led all facets of economic development. And part of that was also working with developers looking to do large-scale mixed-use developments that included multifamily developments. And so we transitioned out here in September 2019, right before the rainy season. And Pierce Transit had created a new team to do outreach to the community to really do two things. One, be a liaison to community groups, neighborhood councils and business districts and civic organizations in the area to be letting the community know what's going on with the agency, but also engaging, bringing feedback and issues back to the organization and help try to work through those. We also, as Amanda mentioned, we work with businesses throughout the community to help with commuting solutions for their employees. One of the things that I noticed when I first got here, we have all these programs for businesses. And with my economic development background, I asked, well, why don't we have a program that also works for the multifamily developments? We're able to flex our ORCA for Business program to work with school districts, human service organizations. Why can't we apply this same principle to the multifamily world? And so for those who might be unfamiliar, ORCA, or the ORCA card, which is used by Pierce Transit and throughout the region, stands for One Regional Card for All. And all of the local transportation agencies came together to have kind of a regional transportation model where the one card could work for any of those service providers, not having to worry about purchasing additional tickets, how transfers will be handled. I was going to create a PowerPoint and kind of walk everyone through this, but I've found having just engaging conversation, sharing information about the program, and engaging in Q&A has been much more beneficial than me just showing some facts and just kind of preaching to the choir a little bit. So the ORCA for multifamily program, I found out that we did have one, but it was highly underutilized. And so I started doing some research with our regional partners. King County Metro had actually 2 of these ORCA for multifamily contracts, if you will, but they hadn't really marketed the program and didn't know the potential that it could have. And so over the last year, I've taken our program, really dissected it and looked at how the program operates, how we can make it better, and we're continuing to evolve it. The region now is getting more on board. So essentially, ORCA for Business, how does that work? We have 2 different, really 2 different programs. One is called our Choice Program. It's where a business, say they have 1 employee who uses public transportation and they want to help them out, they can go in and purchase regular fares or a single month pass for their employee, and they're paying full retail for that. Then we have what we call our passport accounts, and we have 2 different ones. They're kind of broken down into how large is the employer. So for 409 employees down to just as little as 5 employees, we kind of have this fixed pricing where everyone has to be covered, whether they use transportation or not, but it's at a much significantly reduced rate and makes it really affordable for businesses to provide that kind of service. The other one for customers who are larger than that, or they have some heavy transit use that's not typical for the rest of the businesses in the area, we have what's called a custom plan. And over the past year, this plan switched from an annual prepay amount to a monthly pay-as-you-go amount. So it's much more beneficial to the businesses as they're only paying for the actual trips being taken by their employees. And so we looked at how can we make this ORCA for multifamily program be more user-friendly, help the developers, help the tenants, especially around affordable housing, where the tenants in these facilities typically have fixed incomes and could use assistance in other areas more than likely. And how can we help the operators of those facilities make their tenants more mobile, have a better quality of life, being able to get to work, to school, to doctor's appointments, to grocery stores, and things like that. And so we've kind of taken that custom ORCA for Business approach and applied that to the ORCA for multifamily program. And so essentially the way that the ORCA for multifamily program works, every unit, say you have a 100-unit building, every unit in the building is afforded 1 ORCA card, and it's then made available for them to use if they need it or if they don't. The good thing is, if no one uses it, there's no monthly cost associated with it. If you have 5 tenants using it, you're only incurring cost on the folks who are actually using the card. There's a caveat in the program where tenants or employees can co-share up to 50% of the costs with the operator or the business, the employer. And over the course of the last 6 months, I've engaged with several multifamily locations kind of on our trunk route, our fixed route service, and just shared some information about the proposal or the program with them, shared a proposal. And when I got to the cost share, that ranged anywhere from $3.50 up to about $6.50 per unit per month, doing projected cost analysis models. And so it was really affordable, considering when you look at an unlimited regional pass is about $97, a local service pass using just Pierce Transit service only comes in around $79 a month. And so it's pretty significant savings for those tenants who are using public transportation. With that, I'll kind of pause for a moment and just see if there's any questions right here. If not, I can continue on with some other aspects of it, and what research I've been doing with other municipalities in our area, and how we can try to move forward with this as a program that becomes widely used and can help potentially cut down development costs with decrease in associated parking with developments.
So it looks like we have one question. How is this cost shared among the tenants / landlords?
Great question. So if you were a landlord that was opting to do a cost share with your tenants, the way that we had reached out to King County Metro to kind of find out how their two existing business or multifamily operators had been working it. And so they had looked to roll it into a nominal rent increase, you know, $3 a month or up to $5 a month, just to incorporate the 50% recoupment piece, treating it as they would another amenity that was rolled into rent prices. With the program, because it is the pricing model has changed from that annual prepay to a monthly. So this month in March, if you had this type of account, you would be invoiced for the trips taken in February. So that monthly cost could fluctuate between month to month. But once you saw like the proposal, what the estimated cost share would be, using that kind of as a fixed monthly cost share amount. I hope that answered the question. If not, I'd be happy to continue to try to elaborate on that.
Are there other ways? So instead of doing it as like a rent increase, having it, you know, maybe paid like, so Nathan, when you're talking about it, you said maybe some of the tenants would use it, but not all of them. So what about the tenants who weren't using it? Like,
so the card, yeah, so the card has to be made available. So upfront for the year one, say you had you know, 100 units, again, in this example, as part of the initial contract. So the year one contract, part of the only upfront cost that would be associated with it would be an administration fee, and as well as a card fee. The card costs are $5 per ORCA card. And so that would be incurred on the initial contract. However, once those cards were issued, you know, if you only had 5 tenants using or units using their card, you're only incurring costs that are actually on trips actually taken.
gotcha.
Was whether the previous pricing model was based off of the census tract data on transit mode split for people who resided in that census block using public transportation, who completed the US Census survey. And then, so whether you had no, you know, you had those 5 same tenants using public transportation or not, you were being charged like this fixed set amount. And it was a lot of times disproportionate to the actual cost that would have been incurred using this pay-as-you-go per trip model. And so our businesses who are currently signed up for this find this to be much more equitable for them. So they're paying on the actual trips that are being taken.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
see
it looked,
another one that says, is this a King County owned program? And so, no, it's not. Pierce Transit's working on this. King County Metro is working on this. Because of our constant conversations over the last year, King County Metro is going to be, they're going to be rolling out a new marketing piece sometime this year surrounding the ORCA for Multifamily program. Community Transit may be doing the same thing. Some of the other ORCA partners like Sound Transit, they don't have the programs like this. It still works on theirs, but they don't have a team like ours that go out and market the program. They don't have the actual footprint like King County Metro or Pierce Transit does. And so if you have facilities in King County, this program is available there as well. For those businesses, you know, if you had a location and wanted a point of contact up there, I think that we could, I definitely could put you in contact with the appropriate person up there.
Thanks, Nathan. And then it looks like Tracy asked if there's like a website that they could sign up as a new nonprofit partnership for the multifamily program, or how would somebody access this?
Sure, great question. And so either through myself or another member of the sales and outreach or the commute solutions team at Pierce Transit can help walk you through how to get set up. And so the first thing, you know, we would just need to have a conversation, talk about how many units you had, your location, just get some initial background information, and then present a proposal on our end on what that proposed or estimated year one pricing would look like, is how we would get started. And I'll be happy to, like I mentioned, I'll share my contact information, as well as if you wanted to, if you couldn't get a hold of me, we have kind of a general commute solutions email and phone number that all of my team monitors. And so if I'm unavailable, another team member can, you know, respond to that email or that phone call and provide the same level of service that I can.
Thanks, Nathan. Just real quick for the folks that just joined, we are recording this and we'll be posting it on our website so that you can catch up or rewatch it later on.
So one of the, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was looking at one of the other comments about this being a great solution for very low income individuals. And so because of this kind of being a custom pricing model, one of the things that we have some flexibility in also is if you were a multifamily operator and you were looking to provide this level of, you know, some type of service for your tenants, but say you don't know how much regional access that they'll be using, or if you just wanted to cap it at local Pierce Transit service only, we have the option to have those type of contract adjustments. And so if it's a Pierce Transit only contract, we have a little more flexibility in how we can structure that versus if we're including other agencies into the contract covering their services. So that's out there. One of the other things that I mentioned when I started looking into this program and how it could really be implemented and the impact that it could have on the community, I started looking at other municipalities in the area to see if they had something similar. And so downtown Tacoma, we have the Tacoma Dome Station is there. There is a multifamily development that's going to be erected nearby, and they part of their development, they had to acquire a piece of property that was owned by Pierce Transit. And so through the property negotiations, they are going to be implementing this ORCA for Multifamily program for their tenants. They're operational. And so that'll be Pierce Transit's first one. But with my background, as I mentioned, in economic development and knowing just how costly multifamily developments can be, that's why I started looking into the other municipalities to see what could be done. So the city of Kirkland, for example, they have a part of their transportation demand management program. They have where developers can apply for a waiver for parking. And one of the things that can help with their waiver approval is if they're offering a transit subsidy for their tenants to show that there is a decreased need for parking. And so me personally, I would like to start working, with the county and the city to see if there's a way to implement something like that. I don't know if that's possible. This group may be a conduit to have those and spark those conversations with the appropriate officials. We have, without getting too far off on a tangent, Pierce Transit's getting ready to undertake one of the biggest projects we've ever done, our bus rapid transit project. That'll be a 14.4 mile corridor from Spanaway to downtown Tacoma. There's projected to be significant economic growth along this corridor on Pacific Avenue. The county and the city both have indicated a need for affordable housing and also high density developments along that area. That bus rapid transit program is going to have additional service hours time there. So it's going to be much more, trying to think the right word, expeditious for folks to travel along that. And so, this program could definitely be very beneficial for any developments that pop up along there. I saw one of the, Sheila mentioned on Pierce Transit's main lines, that's really where we want to start the focus, is looking at those developments that are currently there or looking to develop along Pierce Transit main lines, and how this can be a beneficial tool for the developer and the tenant to increase quality of life.
Yeah. Thanks, Nathan. Looks like there's another question from Tracy. Will TOD be an option with partnership? Sorry, will TOD be an option with partnership with nonprofits along Pacific Avenue?
So great question. I'm anticipating there to be an increase in those transit-oriented developments, especially on Pacific Avenue in the coming years as the BRT project gets underway and is opened. And so I would love to have an additional conversation, Tracy, on that, specifically around the partnership with nonprofits, like maybe dive more into the question that you're asking there to see, what options are available.
Yeah. Looks like another question from Sheila. How can this program be wrapped into future developments? Are there incentives that can be presented to investors or developers?
Great question. And so currently, we are just starting to work on what does the marketing look like as we've revamped this program. And so future developments can definitely participate in this program. As far as incentives that can be tied to it, I think that comes at a larger conversation, the one that I mentioned earlier with the county or the city, on if they would look at implementing some type of parking trade-off for transit use subsidies. Currently, there's nothing in place. I did some research. There's a small business incentive that's out currently to help with these transportation subsidies for businesses. Unfortunately, the language when it was passed through state legislation is very specific. That it has to go towards businesses, it can't be used for multifamily. So on our end, there's currently not an incentive, unfortunately. Like I mentioned, if it was local service only, we have a little more flexibility in what we can do versus if we're including the transportation with any of our ORCA partner agencies.
So Nathan, it sounds like from what you just said, there's a law at the state level that prohibits that. Is that right?
So currently, we have a small business incentive that the state passed. I believe it's through WSDOT dollars that can help offset first year costs on these ORCA for business accounts. But the language is very specific where it has to be used for businesses and employees. And so we can't use it for our like our 501c3 nonprofits. If they're looking to do something for clients, we can't use it for those. And I've specifically asked, I had a couple of the multifamily operators when I was engaging in conversation earlier this year, well, let me rephrase that, late last year. And it came back that multifamily was excluded from eligibility in that incentive piece.
Interesting. So I know you mentioned the parking situation. Does that preclude us from advocating to do, less parking requirements if they decided to offer the transit card? I think you and I had talked about this before.
Yeah, great question. It currently, I don't know that the county or the city has any anything in a TDM that mentions being able to offset required parking for providing transit. It's something that I would personally like to see, as it would help, with those development costs as well as maintenance and upkeep costs of the property, and especially around some of the more affordable housing situations. Not everyone, uses public transportation, but there's a large portion of the population that tends to be reliant on public transportation, and a lot of those are lower income individuals. And so if there is a way to partner with, housing is a really big need for folks, but also a way to a better life, having transportation to be able to get to work, to get to school, to get to those necessary trips. I think this program is a great way to partner with, the affordable housing community and multifamily operators as a whole to provide that other piece of quality of life for individuals.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. And then I know you were looking into something that maybe Kirkland offered something similar. Did you ever find any information on that?
Yeah, so the city of Kirkland, just over the last couple of months, they've updated their website. They went to a new hosting platform. And so the link that I previously had to this transportation demand management, where it spelled out being able to use parking or request parking reductions if you're providing, there, it listed several things. A transit subsidy was one of those. I haven't been able to find the website again. I've tried working with some of the city staff, and they're having difficulty locating that one specific page, which I'm at, can imagine a city website has a lot of pages to upkeep. And so, but, I have email correspondence with them that say, yeah, they have it in their policy where you can, as a developer, you can request, a decrease in number of parkings associated with the development. And then if you're implementing certain steps, and transit subsidy is one of those, it helps the case for awarding that waiver.
Okay, so they have a waiver incentive for parking. That's really great. When hopefully if they find it or find the policy, for sure share that with us, because having something already written down and being able to compare it to another city that's comparable in size, using that to advocate for something makes it a lot easier. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and so kind of with that, I think I've hit all of the highlights that I wanted to share. And so, if there's any, open verbal dialogue anyone would like to engage with, I'm happy to take questions. Or if you feel comfortable just typing them in, a lot of folks have been doing that. Happy to just continue answering those questions. I'm gonna look away from the screen for a second so I can pull my contact information and paste it over into the chat box for everyone to have.
Thanks, Nathan. We'll give it a couple minutes to see if anybody has anything that they wanted to bring up. And if not, we'll let you guys go early so you can enjoy your lunch. And Nathan, do you guys have on your website more information about this yet?
So good question. Our team's been looking to update stuff. I think currently it still just says ORCA for business, but we do have, and I'll paste that website in there so you can also see our teams and a little more about the program. And Amanda, I can send to you, we're still working on new marketing material, but I have our older version that we've updated with more updated information, but it doesn't look the best. But I can share that with you as well, so you can send to your members also.
Sure. Yeah. And if you're on the Zoom call today and you're not a member, you don't get our emails, just put your email in the chat box and I can send you whatever Nathan sends to me. It looks like Sheila had another question. Have you considered how incorporating this kind of program could potentially have positive impact on social determinants of health?
So great question. I don't know that any type of study has been looked at. Unfortunately, last year I was one of the folks at Pierce Transit that was furloughed for a couple of months. And so this kind of that breakaway from work really derailed some of my progress that I was making. And over the last couple of months, I've just been really getting back into hitting some strides with this. And so it's definitely something that would like to see, because as you mentioned, I imagine that those impacts are going to be beneficial. If someone now has a place to stay that they can afford, but they also have affordable transportation, that's such a stress relief, mental health break that individuals could use. And so, I know walkability scores for cities are really big, but adding a transit component so people can get, not just within their block, but can get across town if they need to, especially for any of those vital trips, school, work, doctor, groceries, things like that. And as Tracy mentioned too, access to better paying jobs as well.
Yeah. I know, Nathan, you mentioned that depending on the contract that the landlord, signs up for, it could be used across Sound Transit too. One of the things that I think about is the new link light rail that's coming in. How would that work with the light rail?
So the light rail service is operated by Sound Transit. It's one of their assets, even though it's a good portion of it's in Pierce County. And so currently the Link light rail downtown, there's no charge to use it through 2022, I think, is when they're projected to start collecting fares. And so once, fare collection is implemented on there, if you have an ORCA card, you tap it and, the tenant can ride just like normal. And then at the end of the month, those trips would show up when we ran the trip cost breakdown report at the end of, or the beginning of the month following when trips were taken. And so it would factor into that.
Okay.
So the service is connected, even if they use the sounder to go, to Tukwila or Seattle for work, those trips would be captured on that trip as well. If Sound Transit was, if they went with, Pierce Transit and Sound Transit, or if they went with the whole region, then those trips would be available to them.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. And then it looked like Tatiana had a question. Is the program integrated with any state SNAP ENT program?
So not that I'm aware of. We try to think. Yeah, currently I do not know of any program out there that helps with the costs of the program. They could be out there. I just might not be aware of them. There's several several programs that I'm just not familiar with, or I don't work with frequently enough to know. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you on that one.
Nathan, do you know if Pierce Transit, did they offer discounted or free tickets for low income?
So yeah, so in King County, they have what they call their LIFT program, where you can go in and an individual can verify their low income status, and then they get an ORCA card, which allows them to have reduced fare. Currently, Pierce Transit does not have one of those programs. Mainly, we don't have the resources or the infrastructure in place to verify everyone's enrollment eligibility. We do, however, currently have a grant where qualified nonprofits and 501c3s can get, normally it's half price tickets for their clients, but currently until the grant funds run out, you are able to get those tickets for free. While we have funding still available, those tickets do expire December 31st of 2021. So any agency that are getting those, we recommend those are the ones you hand out first. One of the components with that is also you can't charge your clients to receive those. You have to provide them free of charge is one of the caveats. But so currently that's the only reduced ticket program that we have for widespread use here with Pierce Transit.
Great, thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have any other questions. Again, if you have anything, feel free to put it on the chat or open up on your Zoom, but we'll hang out for a couple more minutes. You guys have anything for us? Thanks again for everybody's attendance today. I appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm trying to get that commute solutions information for them as well. I posted my contact information earlier in the chat. Now I'm going to get the general, our general commute solutions line in case you try to reach me and you don't hear back from me.
I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.